This is kind of funny, but also sad. One of the many sham claims that the supporters of Donald Trump have made about the 2020 election is that dead people voted. Now, as more and more of these claims are investigated, more and more of these claims are being debunked. I'm going to have a voicemail for you about dead people voting, but this might come as a shock to some of you. In a country of 331 million people, there are lots of people with the same name, even people with the same middle initial. And when you hear that, 118-year-old Joe Smith voted, but Joe Smith died 20 years ago, it might actually be 72-year-old Joe Smith that voted from the same city. There's this really funny thing. So when I lived in New York City, I was in a band. One of my bandmates, I'm not going to give his real name so people don't go doxing him, but I'm going to give you a name that will work. His first name is Eddie. Now, Eddie typically would be Edward, but sometimes Eddie is short for, or a nickname for, Edwin. So my bandmate's name was Eddie A. Jimenez. Okay, let's say that was Eddie A. Jimenez. And he once looked up how many Eddie A. Jimenezes are there in New York City. And there's a whole bunch. Okay. But then he said, here's a more interesting question. How many Edwin A. Jimenezes are there in New York City? Edwin being much less common. And there were 11. So even a name like Edwin A. Jimenez, that's not the actual name. I'm just, modifying it so that people don't go and try to figure out who this guy is. There were 11 people with the same middle initial, even Edwin A. Jimenez in New York City. So a lot of that is what's going on with these so-called dead voters. So the Trump campaign has been alleging dead voters for a while. One such example is that Trump's campaign and Fox News host Tucker Carlson last week alleged that a Georgia woman named Deborah Jean Christensen voted while dead. The campaign and Carlson said it was fraud. Deborah Jean Christensen died last year. Now, in fact, the vote was legally cast by a living woman whose name is also Deborah Jean Christensen, born in the same year and the same month, but on a different day. Now, CNN eventually interviewed her. They went to her door. She was alive. She was a real person who was alive and voting. There's another example, which is the case of Mr. and Mrs. James Blaylock. Now, Mr. James Blaylock did pass away years ago. His wife votes under the name Mrs. James Blaylock. Here she is, alive and well. Take a look.
He's not voted. He didn't vote.
It was you.
It was me.
President of the United States was accusing you of voter fraud, essentially.
Oh, I know it. And I knew it wasn't fraud.
Who did you vote for? You don't have to share that.
I voted for the Democrats, for Biden.
I see. And so,
I guess I voted against the other one, really.
So there it is, dead voters who are actually alive. Now, I've also been accused of being dead before. Do you guys remember this? It's sort of an aside, but years ago, there was a documentary, a perfectly reasonable documentary about gay teens who were bullied so ferociously in school that they took their own lives. And that's a real thing. That's a very, very sad thing. But for some reason, we've not been able to figure out. I was in the montage in a sort of in memoriam of bullied gay teens who died by suicide. And at the time, this came as a shock to a lot of people in the audience. Now, at the time, I was not a teen. I was 27 years old at the time. I was not gay and I was not bullied. And I also wasn't dead, which was important to clarify. And I issued a clarification. So I understand what it's like to be accused of being dead when you were actually alive. So this is all completely wacky. The Trump campaign is making all sorts of accusations of dead people voting. Tucker Carlson ended up apologizing for one false claim about a dead person voting. Now, even if anecdotally, some of these supposedly dead voters are either still alive or didn't vote, it's still worth, I think, doing a more thorough investigation of this. And that's what the BBC did. The BBC looked at the claim that was made by the Trump campaign or people around Trump that 10,000 dead people voted in Michigan. That's the top line number. 10,000 dead people voted in Michigan. Now, as a reminder, the margin in Michigan by which Joe Biden won is about 46,000. So to start with, They're claiming 10,000 dead people voted in Michigan. Even if those were all Biden votes, it would not reverse the results. But BBC started with 10,000. Good. Then the BBC picked 31 names from the list of dead voters and said, let's research these 31 supposedly dead voters. 11 of the 31 were alive. They'd call them up. People, they said, nope, I'm alive. No problem. No big deal. So about 1/3 of the sample of supposedly dead voters were people who were just alive. 17 of the 31 supposedly dead voters, they've researched and found no reason to believe that they were dead. In other words, for 17 of the 31 people, about half of the sample, Trumpists are claiming these people are dead. They found no death notices, no obituaries. In many cases, they found, online profiles of people who are still alive and posting things online. There was no reason to think 17 of the 31 person sample was dead. And then they found 3 people of the 31 who actually are dead. But listen to this, in 2 of the 3 cases where dead people supposedly voted, it was these situations of a father and a son with the same name. And indeed, ballots were requested and returned under the father's name, but it was a clerical error. In other words, the son voted, it was registered as a vote by the father, but there was not actually a vote registered by the son. So it's not even a double vote. Like, yes, it's a clerical error, but it was a son voting under his father's name one time. No double voting there either. So as you can see, taking a random 31 person sample from the supposedly 10,000 dead voters, very, very quickly falls apart. It's important to do this. It's important to understand the reality. Now, let's go to the voicemail, which is related to this. One of our sponsors today is Lucy, and they are giving my audience 20% off. Lucy is a company founded by Caltech scientists with only one mission, which is to help people quit smoking and vaping by offering a clean, affordable nicotine alternative. Now, many of you know, you've heard the stories. I've known several people in my life who have struggled with quitting smoking. I've seen how difficult it can be, and nicotine alternatives can be hugely helpful. Lucy offers a nicotine gum in 3 flavors, wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. They also have lozenges, which come in cherry ice flavor. Lucy is affordable. It'll ship right to your door. You don't have to go out to the store. Shipping is always free. You can buy single boxes or save with a subscription. It's the year 2020. It's time to throw the cigarettes away and get rid of the vape. And Lucy can make it easier. You'll find a ton of excellent reviews online from countless people who have used Lucy to quit smoking and vaping. Go check them out at lucy.co. I've put the link right underneath this video, and you'll get 20% off when you use the coupon code Pakman. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm required to give. These products contain nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.